Hey guys, welcome back to Get in the Game Sports Podcast. Today we have with us Rohan,
Hello.
Abhi,
Hey.
Brent,
Hey.
Samir,
What's up?
and today we have episode 3, way too early NFL record predictions, part 2, the NFC side of things. And we're starting off with the NFC West. The NFC West. Sorry guys. The San Francisco 49ers. Last year's record 13-3, first in the NFC West.
This year I have them going 11-5.
I have them going 11-5 as well.
I have them going 12-4.
I got the Niners going 12-4.
This year the Niners will go 11-5.
Some of the 49ers' notable additions are Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle, and Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver.
Some of the notable losses include Emmanuel Sanders, wide receiver, and DeForest Buckner, defensive lineman.
So the strength of schedule for the 49ers is 52.7%, fourth toughest in the league.
Okay, well, I think we all pretty much agree here that the 49ers are going to be one of the top dogs again in the NFC conference, and I think they're going to have some competition from Seattle, my team. But I still think that they have more firepower on offense, as Russell Wilson is the only one there doing the job.
I don't see them returning to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't see them even getting close.
Yeah, neither do I. I think they're
returning to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think they're really going to not fall off completely, but I think they're going to take a step back this year for sure.
They can maybe win one or two playoff games, but not Super Bowl.
Jimmy Garoppolo is not your elite quarterback, but he's by no means he's not bad, but he just doesn't have the talent by himself to just win. I mean, in the NFC Championship game, he only threw for 80 yards, and he really relied on the running backs, Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman, to carry him.
Yeah, and Deebo Samuel is a good receiver, but how much can they do on offense to propel them to the Super Bowl? Okay, moving on. The Seattle Seahawks. Last year's record, 11-5, second in the NFC West.
This year I have them going 11-5.
I also have them going at 11-5.
I have them going 10-6.
I got the Hawks going 11-5.
Russell Wilson and the Seahawks will go 11-5.
Okay, so some notable additions for the Seahawks are their old buddy, Bruce Irvin, defensive end, and from the draft, they took Jordan Brooks, linebacker.
Notable losses are George Fant, an offensive tackle, and although he hasn't signed with the team yet, I'm assuming he's going to leave Jadeveon Clowney, an edge rusher.
So the strength of schedule for the Seahawks this year is 50.9%, tied for 13th in the league.
Yeah, I just see the Seahawks being another playoff contender. I think they're definitely going to be in the divisional round. I think they can definitely move past the wild card, but they just aren't at the next level at the point where they can make the Super Bowl yet. I just think Russell Wilson does not have enough weapons around him in order to do so.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I think he has enough weapons. I just don't think from the defensive side of things, going back to their Legion of Boom years, have enough to propel them on the defensive side of things. As on offense, DK Metcalf is going to emerge this year as possibly the top dog or top target for Russell Wilson. But I just see them going the same record. I don't really see them falling off or improving at all. And Chris Carson is going to be healthier this year. So that's one thing. But again, I have to agree with you. I don't see them going to the Super Bowl.
To be honest, I like the Seahawks receiving duo of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I like Chris Carson as a running back. But yeah, as you said, the defense, I don't think they're as good as they were in recent years. So if they do somehow get to the Super Bowl, I think it'll be because of the offense, not the defense.
Okay, well, so we all got similar predictions. 4 of you guys went 11-5, and just me had 10-6. And the reason why I put them one notch lower than all of you guys is because of their division now. You obviously have the San Francisco 49ers, but as the years goes on, the Cardinals could also get better, and it's going to make it harder for the Seahawks.
Yeah. Brent, you want to add anything?
No, I think I agree with everyone else.
Okay. Moving on. The Los Angeles Rams. Last year's record 9-7. They're in the NFC North.
This year I have them going 5-11.
I have them going 6-10.
I have them going 5-11.
I got them going 6-10.
The Rams will go 7-9.
Some notable additions for the Rams are Ashawn Robinson, defensive tackle, and Leonard Floyd, edge rusher. So not too many notable additions for them.
The notable losses include Brandon Cooks, a wide receiver, and Corey Littleton, a linebacker.
Well, I mean, I have the Rams at 7-9 this year. I think with their new move to with their new logo, and I think they have a fresh start to the franchise. I think Jared Goff's definitely got something to work with, and Robert Woods, and also he's got a good offensive line as well. I mean, never mind the loss of Brandon Cooks. He was obviously a target, but Robert Woods was his primary guy last year. And I think they also upgraded defensively with as you mentioned, the addition of Ashawn Robinson and Leonard Floyd to help Aaron Donald and the defensive line position. But unfortunately, they lost Corey Littleton at linebacker, and in the secondary, they lost Jalen Ramsey. So I think they might be lacking a little bit there, but I think they're going to take a step back, but certainly not too bad for the Rams this year.
Yeah, I put them at a low because I think Jared Goff is actually a declining quarterback, although he's pretty young. I don't see much talent in him, as he's choked a lot of situations. He hasn't become clutch in a lot of situations. He's a decent quarterback, but I don't see him rising.
Also, I think we forgot to mention that their star running back, Todd Gurley, went to the Falcons this year too, so their offense isn't going to be as good as last year.
Last year,
I agree. The Rams are taking a step back also because of their strength of schedule, 51.6%, which is tied for 10th in the league. And yeah, they lost Todd Gurley. He was pretty much a non-factor, but he was still some sort of a factor. And not having a star running back will severely hurt the Rams.
Last year, Todd Gurley struggled a lot with injuries, and he wasn't himself from his MVP years. So I think Todd Gurley definitely going to the Falcons won't impact the Rams as much as the fact that they have Jared Goff as quarterback right now. Even though he has been to a Super Bowl, he has shown little progression over the past few years. And I think that's why I see him at 7-9.
I think we can all agree on one thing, though, that the Rams had one of the memeiest logos this year.
Yeah.
Looking like IKEA, am I right?
All right, Sid.
Yeah.
All right, Sid.
Hi, the Arizona Cardinals. Last year's record, 5-10-1, last in the NFC North.
This year I've been going 7-9.
This year I have them going 9-7 and making them take a big leap.
I'm going 12-4.
I got the Cardinals taking an even bigger leap at 11-5.
I got the Cardinals at 7-9.
Some notable additions is superstar wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins from the Houston Texans, Josh Jones, offensive tackle, and Isaiah Simmons, linebacker from the draft.
And notable losses include David Johnson, the running back, and Rodney Gutner, a defensive lineman.
So I have many reasons why the Cardinals will be good. First, their strength of schedule is 51.8%, tied for 8th in the league, but I don't think that really tells the whole story because some of the teams that they're facing this year may have been stronger last year compared to this year. Also, they, as notable additions say, they did acquire DeAndre Hopkins. He's an elite receiver. He was even great with bad QBs, which can't be said of many other receivers like Michael Thomas and Julio Jones. So Kyler Murray can actually take a step forward in year 2. He had a really good rookie year for a rookie quarterback, but he could really take that step in year 2 and become a really great quarterback. Guys like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Deshaun Watson all had great sophomore QB seasons. And there were other great additions to the defense. So basically their linebacking core has been shored up. And they added a defensive lineman, which is a weak position. And also with the O-line, it isn't as bad as it seems. The rushing attack with Kenyon Drake was actually efficient last year. With David Johnson, it wasn't, but I think that could be blamed on Johnson himself. And Kyler Murray held onto the ball for too long, and that's why they gave up a lot of sacks, which is something I think he can fix in his sophomore year.
Okay, so making my case of why the Cardinals going 7-9. Yes, they did acquire a star wide receiver, but they do have a very young quarterback with an offensive line that, although it's not as bad as many say, it's not very good either. They do have a decent running back core, but with the young offense such as the Cardinals, and I keep going back to the schedule, but they have a very hard schedule along with division, including the Seahawks and 49ers.
Yeah, but
And
they also face the NFC East and the AFC East, two of the easier divisions in the NFL.
True, but so do the Seahawks.
Yeah, but that's to make a case for the Seahawks and how they're going to have a better record.
True, but I just don't see them taking a huge leap from 5-10 to 12-4 and 11-5, and based off of the reasons that Brent have said, like how young and unexperienced Kyler Murray is.
Well,
Well,
yeah, I agree with you, Sid. I don't see him being a winning team. They just have a young quarterback, Kyler Murray, just entering his sophomore year. We've seen that plenty of times with other quarterbacks. They've struggled, like Robert Griffin III from the Washington Redskins. He's also dropped off, and now look where he is. He's playing for a backup role in Baltimore. So I think Kyler Murray, even though he's starting day one, I don't think he's there talent wise, and I don't think he can really produce in his sophomore year.
Well, Griffin got injured in his rookie season, which was why he's now a backup quarterback, or at least part of the reason. But there have been quarterbacks who have been great in year two. As I mentioned before, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, they're all fairly mobile. And Kyler Murray is actually fairly mobile himself, and he's kind of fits more of the mold of these quarterbacks. So I think he could also take the step year two, just like these guys before him.
Okay, so then the question is, Rohan, do you think they're going to make the playoffs this year?
Yeah, they're a playoff team.
I think
they're going to make the playoffs.
With seven teams being allowed into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's easier for the Cardinals.
I think it is. I think that adds to the Cardinals possibly going to the playoffs. But then you have to look at the Cowboys and that NFC East division there too.
Cardinals are definitely not a division winner, and let alone I don't think they're beating Seattle. But I think they still have a better chance than any of the teams in the NFC East to make the playoffs. And I think they could sneak into that 6th seed if Kyler Murray produces. And I think that's all what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to if Kyler Murray is going to take that step forward, like you think he is. Okay, moving on. The NFC East. The Philly Eagles. Last year's record 9-7, first in the NFC East.
Okay, this is my team. I have them going 11-5.
I have them going 9-7.
I also have them going 9-7.
Also got them going 9-7.
I have them also 9-7.
So some notable additions for the Eagles are Javon Hargrave, defensive tackle from the Steelers, and Darius Slay, cornerback from the Lions.
And they lose Jordan Howard, a running back, to the Dolphins, and Malcolm Jenkins, a safety, to the Saints.
The strength of schedule for the Eagles this year is 48.6%, 25th in the league.
Okay, so Brent, let me make a couple of points first on why I think we all have the Eagles going 9-7, and because I know you're going to have a really lengthy talk on why you think they're going to be good this year. So a couple of my points is that their over-under to win 9-7 is 9.5, and I'm going to take the under for these couple of reasons. They have the 8th best strength of schedule, and the addition of Darius Slay to fill Malcolm Jenkins' shoes is perfect. And I still think they'll win the division, but I don't think they're going to take a big leap forward because of how injury-prone their franchise quarterback Carson Wentz is.
Offensively, I think the Eagles actually made a little bit of an upgrade at wide receiver, especially considering they didn't even have anyone last year with Jalen Reagor. But also with the loss of Hal Vatai, their offensive tackle, they lose some of their running game that they were relying on last year. And I think the Eagles are definitely still a division winner, but I don't think they have the capability of even making a playoff push.
I think the Eagles' offense did upgrade, but not by that much. Not enough to go 11-5. I think more closer to 500 is
Yeah.
my
Okay, here's my case of why I have them so high. Yes, it is biased prediction a little bit, maybe. But I also honestly think this, and I think this because they had a star quarterback who played all 16 games last year in Carson Wentz, carrying a practice squad wide receiver core essentially to the playoffs, winning lots of games at the end of the season that are most argued that they shouldn't win. Notable game including the Cowboys game. Also, this year, they have addressed wide receiver core in the draft, drafting a bunch of speedsters promising, such as like Quez Watkins in the 4th round, and obvious one, Jalen Reagor. and they have returning Deshaun Jackson. And the reason why I have them so high is because their defense. Defense, in my opinion, greatly improved. Bringing in a great nose tackle in Javon Hargrave, who's very young, to really improve their defensive line, who's already one of the best in the league. Also, they do have a glaring hole in linebacker, but they addressed it a little bit in the draft with a third-round pick of Darius Taylor, I believe his name is. And they did draft a safety in the 4th round, who seems a little bit promising from Clemson, Kayvon Wallace. And the obvious move was Darius Slade acquiring the superstar cornerback, making them a tough defensive team to match up against. And I think with the quarterback and speedster wide receivers, and also not a terrible offensive line, and a promising young running back in Miles Sanders, they do have a great team.
See, the only thing I have to counter that is that the Steelers' formation, or not formation, but their defensive scheme was a 3-4 scheme, and Javon Hargrave is going to have to adjust to a 4-3 scheme with Jim Schwartz in Philly. And I think it's going to be harder now with all this corona restriction for him to get a better adjustment to the game plan.
Well, I mean, Brent, you also mentioned the fact that the Eagles are winning games late last season, and that's why they were able to make that final push into the playoffs. But keep in mind, the Eagles were in the worst division in football last year. I mean, like, the Redskins and Giants were both beyond losing teams, and you had Dallas, who was just at 500. So if they were in another division, per se, like the NFC West, that had three teams with winning records, I don't think they would have so much success.
Well, Samir, then you're adding to his point then.
Well, yeah,
You're adding to his point that they're going to get a couple of easy wins because of how bad their division is.
Yeah, but I think this year, I think the NFC East has definitely improved, and I think the level has obviously elevated by a lot.
I don't see the competition elevating that much.
All right, well then that's what we're going to talk about next. The Dallas Cowboys. The last year's record, second in the NFC East.
This year I have them going 9-7.
I also have them going 9-7.
I have them going 7-9.
I got the boys going 10-6.
How about them Cowboys, 8-8?
Okay, so some notable additions for the Cowboys are Gerald McCoy, defensive lineman, and obviously CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver from the draft.
They lose Byron Jones, their star cornerback, and Robert Quinn, a linebacker.
So the strength of schedule for the Cowboys this year is 45.9%, which is 30th in the league. And I actually have them going 10-6 and winning their divisions for some of these reasons. So I know at this point may be a little out there, but the Cowboys usually rotate of having one good year and one mid-course/bad year, which has happened since 2014. 2014 they were good, 15 bad, 16 good, 17 okay, 18 they won their division, 19 they were obviously mid-core. So 2020, this is their year to be good. They also replaced Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy, which I really think helps upgrade the head coaching position. They had a really good draft, so they obviously added CeeDee Lamb, but they added Trevon Diggs and Neville Gallimore to their defense. So with the notable losses, Byron Jones was a notable loss, but they replaced that with Trevon Diggs, and they helped upgrade their defensive line with Neville Gallimore. And with CeeDee, he was the best player available, and the Cowboys kept him from getting drafted by the Eagles, who could have really helped upgrade the Eagles' wide receiver position.
Okay, so I'm going low on the Cowboys, because the Cowboys. Okay, first of all, they have the Eagles in their division, and I have a bold prediction that the Eagles are going to take 2 wins over the Cowboys next season. The Giants might take 1 win, and I feel like the Cowboys are going to be really bad in their division. Like honestly, just next year, I think they could choke in their division, and I honestly think that Mike McCarthy isn't going to have that good of a connection with Dak Prescott. I don't think they can get things together. I think they're going to have another bad year. And maybe in 2021 they could have a better year with better players.
I think Dak Prescott is going to prove himself because he wants to get paid by the Cowboys or just any other team. So he's gonna have to produce this year in order to get paid. So
I don't see any improvement with Dak Prescott.
I mean, I just see their defensive production going down with these two big notable losses. And obviously you could say that Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb is going to be a nice trio for Dak to throw to, but I think it just matters on how far Dak is going to step up. I think that's what it matters.
they're also getting back Aldon Smith, the pass rusher, and he was really good when he played back in 2015.
And their defense, I mean, Van Der Esch, he was good at the beginning of the season, but then kind of took a dip later in the season.
And their defense suffered injuries, especially in the linebackers position.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. The New York Giants. Last year's record 3-13, third in the NFC East.
This year I've been going 5-11.
I've been going 5-11 as well.
I also have them going 3-13 again.
And I also have them going 3-13.
Okay, guys, I think Abhi's having a little bit of technical difficulties, so we're going to go straight to notable additions. One of their notable additions was Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, and James Bradbury, cornerback. Oh, okay, Abhi, are you back?
Yeah, sorry, my thing said I had bad internet connection, but I have the Giants going at 5-11.
Okay, so notable losses include Mike Remmers, offensive tackle, and Michael Thomas, not the Michael Thomas you're thinking of free safety.
Once again, I think it relies more on the quarterback play and Daniel Jones. I think definitely if the Giants want to be a winning team, which I don't think they are at this point, Daniel Jones has to step up and make plays for them. And I mean, last year after a nice 2-2 start, he lost 10 games straight, and I think that's going to be the same thing here. Even though they have Saquon Barkley on offense.
Yeah, I think they win. I think they win 2 more games this year because of Saquon, and he was injured last year. So I think they win 2 more games this year because of his production.
Well, even though the Giants' strength of schedule is 48.2, which is 26th highest in the league, I still don't see them taking much of a jump because they did add Andrew Thomas, an offensive tackle, a major needed position of need. But is he really the best tackle in the draft? They could have gotten Jedrick Wills or Tristan Wirfs, who arguably could have been better. James Bradbury, cornerback, he's okay. He's not great for a cornerback. So.
Yeah, and Nate Solder is not really doing anything for how much they paid him.
Yeah, he's better on the Patriots.
Yeah, much better. Albie, you want to add any points?
Move on.
Okay, more technical difficulties. Brent, you want to add any points?
I think we should move on. I agree.
Okay, sorry guys, I'm having really bad Wi-Fi right now.
All right, let's move on.
Oh, yeah, I think we should move on, too.
Something's unstable with my Wi-Fi.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
The Washington Redskins. Last year's record 3-13, last in the NFC East.
This year I've been going 4-12.
I've been going 3-13.
I've been going 5-11.
I got the Redskins going 2-14.
I have the Skins at 7-9.
Some notable additions for the Redskins are Chase Young, defensive end from the draft, and Kendall Fuller, cornerback from the Chiefs.
Notable losses include Trent Williams, an offensive tackle, and Josh Norman, a declining cornerback.
Okay, so the strength of schedule for the Redskins is 46.5%, which is 28th highest in the league.
Okay, so
I have the Redskins going 7-9. Well, not only because they're my team, but because they have a pretty easy strength of schedule. I mean, look at the fact that they're playing the 3 of the 4 first-round picks. They're playing the Giants, the Lions, and the Bengals, who are struggling teams currently. They got rid of President of Football Operations Bruce Allen, who has been a detriment to their organization. And I think they brought in a new face with Ron Rivera, who has certainly proven himself in Carolina, leading them to 1 Super Bowl. Also, they added Ronald Darby to their cornerback position. And I think with the addition of Cody Latimer, wide receiver, I think they also got an upgrade for Kyle Allen, new quarterback, to throw to. And I think they might be moving on from Dwayne Haskins quickly, but I think they certainly will have a much better season, including their additions, because of their additions, as well as a new front office.
That was going to be my question. Who do you think was going to start at quarterback?
Well, I mean, it's really a competition between Kyle Allen and Dwayne Haskins. Obviously, Dwayne Haskins was a starter last season, but obviously with the addition of former Carolina coach Ron Rivera, Kyle Allen also played there, and I think he might be the favorite going into Week 1. But no definite starter has been named.
Just give me 2 seconds.
Okay, so I think that's where I'm going to come in right there on the point on head coaching. Although Ron Rivera is a better coach than Jay Gruden, teams that fire their head coach only win 1.6 games more than the previous season. And Mike Clay from ESPN and other analysts on ESPN already have the Redskins picking number 1 in the 2021 draft. And to add to that, they lost key pieces to the O-line like Trent Williams and Donald Penn. Adrian Peterson in the run attack is not going to get any younger, and Geis and Barber have shown no signs of improving. Terry McLaurin, their one bright spot on offense, is injury-prone, and although their pass rush is going to be good now with Chase Young, 1/3 of a good defense doesn't win games, Samir.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by injury-prone for Terry McLaurin?
Terry McLaurin was injured a lot of last season, Samir. And although he showed a couple of bright spots, as I said, he was very inconsistent.
So
To defend Samir here, you said 1/3 of the defense. They did upgrade their secondary with 2 cornerbacks.
So I'm going to defend Sid here. With the notable losses, Trent Williams is actually a major one. Obviously, it hurt him going to the 49ers because it affects my team, the Cardinals, in a bad way. But, yeah, they also haven't improved much outside of Chase Young, so teams could just, like, double team him from the O-line. So,
And I just see it as an unstable offense where they're going to spend more time thinking about who's going to play and instead of how are they going to get better. I just see uncertainty there in the offense. All right, moving on. The NFC North. The Green Bay Packers. Last year's record 13-3, first in the NFC North.
This year I've been going 10-6.
I also have them going 10-6.
Yeah, I've been going 10-5.
I want the Packs going 11-5.
The Green Bay Packers will go 11-5 this year.
So some notable additions to the Green Bay Packers are Christian Kirksey, linebacker, and Rick Wagner, offensive tackle.
Okay, and they lose Blake Martinez, a linebacker, and Brian Bulaga, an offensive tackle.
So the strength of schedule for the Packers this year is 50.4%, 15th in the league.
So, as you guys know, our first episode for this podcast was all about the Green Bay Packers. So, we're all pretty much going to agree here with our record predictions. So, if you want to get more in-depth views on what we're talking about, then I suggest you can go back, watch episode 1.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Minnesota Vikings. Last year's record, 10-6, second in the NFC North.
This year I've been going 9-7.
I've been going 8-8.
I've been going 10-6.
I got them improving to 11-5.
The Vikings will remain 10-6 this year.
Some notable additions for the Vikings are Michael Pierce, defensive tackle, and Justin Jefferson, wide receiver from the draft.
And notable losses include 2 great defensive players, Everson Griffin, a defensive end, and Linville Joseph, a defensive tackle. And also they lose star wide receiver Stephon Diggs.
Okay, okay.
So to start off, the strength of schedule for the Vikings is 51.6%, tied for 10th in the league. But I still have them going 11-5 and improving. I know it looks like they lost a lot, but they actually didn't lose too much. They did lose Stephon Diggs, but they replaced him with Justin Jefferson, who is a first-round receiver. So he could easily pair him with Adam Thielen, who is an elite receiver. So Justin Jefferson can slot into that number 2 role. And another reason I have them improving is because of continuity, because they have the same head coach, they've had the same quarterback, they've had mostly the same team for a while now. So
okay, well, to counter that, they lost offensive coordinator Kevin Stefanski, who I made a case for last episode. He went to the Browns, and they also lost their key pieces of their D line, Everson Griffin and Linval Joseph.
Yeah, but they have Danielle Hunter, who's one of the up-and-coming pass rushers in the league.
Yeah, but they lost one of the most explosive receivers in the league in Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, but they replaced him with Justin Jefferson. Also,
he's still a rookie. He's still a rookie.
I think
Yeah, but they already have an elite receiver. They don't need Justin Jefferson.
From a schedule but from a schedule standpoint, they have one of the tougher schedules, being away at Seattle, Tampa, and New Orleans. Those are 3 games which I think they could all lose.
Yeah,
well,
but
last year they
also,
lost.
That's true.
they also have 4 games against the Lions and the Bears combined. Also, I think Dalvin Cook can really help out the offense. He was amazing last year, but I still think he can improve this year.
Well, I think the Vikings are just going to be the same team. I mean, they don't really look like they improved at all. I mean, they just got Michael Pierce. They got a few wide receivers for Kirk Cousins to throw to. Adam Thielen, as you know, was injury prone last year. He missed a lot of games last year.
I think they become worse. I mean, their D-line got worse.
I mean, I don't think their D-line is going to be that much of an issue, considering like Rohan mentioned, they have star pass rusher Daniil Hunter. So I think
and in the secondary, I just remembering now, they lost Xavier Rhodes and Trey Waynes.
Yeah, but they weren't that good of quarterbacks.
They weren't impact players.
Xavier Rhodes didn't play well in 2019. Trey Waynes has just never been that great.
Yeah, and said they get 2 matches on the Lions and 2 matches on the Bears. That's 4 games.
The Bears could beat them 1 game, I think.
But bottom line is, I just feel the Vikings making the playoffs again. Maybe if they're lucky, they'll win a wild card game like they did against New Orleans. But for the most part, I don't see the Vikings making a real deep end playoffs.
I think because of the emergence of the Cardinals and possibly the Cowboys or the Eagles, I don't think the Vikings are going to make the playoffs this year, and I think they're going to go 500 and miss the playoffs this year, unfortunately.
I think the Vikings have a chance, but I don't see them getting.
All
right, moving on. The Chicago Bears. Last year's record 8-8, 3rd in the NFC North.
This year I've been going 3-13.
I've been going 4-12.
Bears are going to go 3-13.
I got them going 4-12.
Bears are going 5-11.
Some notable additions for the Bears are Robert Quinn, linebacker from the Cowboys, and Jimmy Graham, tight end from the Packers.
The notable losses are Nick. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name.
Nick Kwiatkowski.
Kwiatkowski, got it. And Clinton Dix, everyone's favorite name, safety.
Okay, so strength of schedule for the Bears is 50.9%, tied for 13th in the league. I think we can all agree that they're going to take a step back.
Yeah, I think Mitchell Trubisky definitely has not proven himself. Remember in the 2017 draft class with Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, he has obviously gone before them at pick number 2, and he's still yet to prove himself with a playoff win or even a Super Bowl like Patrick Mahomes. So I think the Bears are just not getting any better. I think Trubisky is not getting any better as well, and I think the Monsters of Midway are not going to be making any playoff pushes anytime soon.
Nick Foles as their starting quarterback.
That Eagles bias kicking in right there.
Also, one of their biggest additions was Jimmy Graham, a very declining tight end. He's
exactly.
Like old right now.
They need a new fresh. They need a refresh.
Yeah, I think they need a rebuild. And they're clearly in rebuilding mode, but their defense. I can't even name anybody on their defense.
They have Eddie Jackson, Akeem Hicks.
Yeah, but Hakeem Hicks is old. Eddie Jackson is.
Khalil Mack.
Eddie Jackson is
Khalil Mack.
Khalil Mack's on the Raiders sooner. Oh, my bad.
Okay.
Sorry. I thought he's on the Bears. I thought he got traded.
The Bears have a lot of
I thought he got traded to the Raiders. Sorry. Other way around, guys. I'm sorry.
Well, the bottom line is, I think just Mr. Trubisky, I think he's a declining quarterback. He's not proven himself yet. And I think it all revolves around his play. And I just don't see him with the weapons he has, and his star tight end being Jimmy Graham. And they drafted Cole Kmet, who is another tight end, but they just don't have any receivers apart from Allen Robinson.
The Bears have a lot of tight ends, but not many good ones.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. The Detroit Lions. Last year's record, 3-12-1, last in the NFC North.
You're 4-12.
I'm going 4-11-1.
I think the Bears are going to go 4-12.
I think the Lions are going to go 3-13.
This year I have Matt Stafford and the Lions at 5-11.
Some notable additions is Jamie Collins, outside linebacker, and Jeffrey Okudah, cornerback from the draft.
Notable losses include star cornerback Darius Slay and Damon Harrison, the defensive team.
So the strength of schedule for the Detroit Lions is 52.5%, tied for fifth highest in the league.
Well, overall, I think the Lions' defense isn't getting any better. I think even with the addition of Jeff Okudah to try to replace Darius Slay, they're just losing key pieces of their defense, especially in the D-line. They don't really have a pass rush, considering they lost defensive tackle Damon Harrison, who has been a factor for them. And I think Matt Stafford is also past his prime a little bit. I think he's lost the connection with Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones, who are two good receivers, by the way, but it just doesn't have any. Matt Stafford doesn't just have the touch anymore that he used to.
Yeah, I think they have talent on offense and Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones Jr. But Matt Stafford, I just think he's a very inconsistent quarterback. He's been good some years, bad some years. They make the playoffs. Some years don't make the playoffs. Some years, I just see them maybe winning one more game this year.
Well, last year I thought they might have showed some promise in the beginning, but following the injury to Matt Stafford, they just could not recover from that, and that's why they ended up at such a poor place last year and being last in the NFC North. So I don't see them making much of an improvement this year.
Yeah, the Lions will take a small step up, but nothing big. And
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to one of the most stacked divisions in the NFL. We could possibly say the best division in the NFL, in the NFC South. And we're starting off with the New Orleans Saints. Last year's record, 13-3, first in the NFC South.
This year I have them going 12-4.
I have them going 11-5.
I have them going 12-4.
I have them repeating at 13-3.
Well, I have them at 12-4.
Some notable additions for the Saints are Cesar Ruiz, center, and Emmanuel Sanders, wide receiver from the 49ers.
Okay, notable losses include Von Bell, a safety, and Teddy Bridgewater, a backup quarterback.
So the Saints' strength of schedule is 49%, which is 24th in the league.
So
you go ahead.
Okay, so I just think that Drew Brees, even though he's a really good quarterback, I think his arm strength has started to go down in the past couple of years. And although Michael Thomas is debated for one of the best wide receivers in the league, I think they take a step back with how good their division has become now in Tampa.
Well, I mean, we haven't really seen the Bucs play. They have an entirely revamped offense. On paper, they look good, but we don't know if Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski still have that connection from when they had in New England. But I think Drew Brees is definitely a franchise quarterback. But however, I don't think he's a Super Bowl contender because we've seen in the past years he does not have the capability to lead them deep into the playoffs. So we'll see what happens this year.
Very star
I
power.
have to disagree. I have to say that the Saints are going to be on fire this year. They haven't done they've really not changed as much. They've dropped Teddy Bridgewater. They've gained Emmanuel Sanders, right? All they're doing right now is adding slightly. So I see the Saints getting only better from here.
I see them taking a step back with how good their division is.
Drew Brees is not declining in any way whatsoever.
Outside of the Buccaneers, I don't think the Panthers or the Falcons are really that great of teams, so I don't see them presenting any threat to the Saints.
I don't see them dropping much, but I don't see the Saints winning the division this year because that's just my bold prediction.
I see them winning the division.
I see them winning the division.
Yeah, I see them winning the division, going to the playoffs, but just losing in the wild card or even the divisional because they just don't. Drew Brees is just not the Super Bowl kind of caliber quarterback. He's obviously won one Super Bowl, but apart from that, he's lost countless times in the wild card and divisional round.
I think he's Samir. I have to disagree with you there. I think he's a Super Bowl quarterback. I just don't think he's a clutch quarterback like Brady.
It's a Super Bowl caliber team now.
Yeah, and I think he is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, but he just hasn't clutched up at the right times.
All right,
moving on. The Atlanta Falcons. Last year's record 7-9, second in the NFC South.
This year I have them taking a step back at 5-11.
I also have them taking a step back at 6-10.
Yeah, I'm taking a step back 5-11.
I got them taking a bigger step back at 4-12.
This year the Falcons will remain the same at 7-9.
Some notable additions for the Falcons is Todd Gurley, running back from the Rams, and A.J. Terrell, cornerback.
Notable losses include their starting tight end Austin Hooper and Desmond Trufant, a cornerback.
So the strength of schedule for the Falcons is 52.5%, tied for 15th in the league.
Well, I think I have the Falcons at 7-9 because I think Todd Gurley will have his bounce back year. Last year he was plagued by injuries, and I think this year he's ready to start over with the fresh organization in the Atlanta Falcons. Also, don't forget the likes of Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, who were Matt Ryan's primary targets last year. So I think they will definitely prevail on offense. On defensively, with the addition of A.J. Terrell, he helps their depleted cornerback situation, and he replaces Desmond Trufant. And finally, on the defensive line, from the defensive line standpoint, they still have Grady Jarrett, one of the elite pass rushers for the Atlanta Falcons.
And Deion Jones, linebacker.
Deion Jones as well. And to cap it off, the Falcons, even though they play the Buccaneers and Saints twice throughout the season, I think they still have a relatively decent schedule because they play the Chicago Bears, the Detroit Lions, and the Los Angeles Chargers, who are all losing franchises.
And going on your point there, Samir, I think they could sneak in a win against the Saints or the Buccaneers in the 2 times that they play them.
So first off, about Matt Ryan's weapons, they do have Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, but they also lost Austin Hooper, who was one of the best tight ends in the league last season. He went to the Browns. You say they added A.J. Terrell, but they also lost Desmond Trufant. So A.J. Terrell takes a spot, but the thing is with rookie cornerbacks, they take some time to adjust to the NFL, and they usually struggle. With the schedule, their strength of schedule is tied for 5th in the league, so that indicates a harder schedule for the Falcons. And one more reason, they place too much value on draft pedigrees. So 17 of their 22 offensive/defensive starters are first-round picks. So in theory, that's good, but not all of those guys are playing like first-round picks. Some of them are declining, like Todd Gurley. And
But
some
I
of
think Todd Gurley will have a fresh start. Definitely.
Yeah, but some of them, like Laquan Treadwell, that's never produced in the NFL.
Well, Laquan Treadwell was never drafted by the Falcons. I think he was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings.
He's still never done anything in the NFL.
Yeah, but Rohan, you could say that's because he was held back by Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, but he's still going to be receiver 3 in Atlanta. So
True. He's right. He's right. Nothing changes there. Still receiver
Yeah, well,
3.
you're seeing, as Rohan said, Todd Gurley has improved his potential last year, actually. And also, obviously, the Saints and the Buccaneers in the same division, which is going to cause a little bit of trouble for the Falcons.
Well, obviously, since the Super Bowl year, I guess, the Falcons have obviously taken a step back. But I think Matt Ryan hasn't. I think he still has the talent. He has the weapons around him to be a playmaker and make difference and have impact on meaningful games throughout the season.
Yeah, but I still think their defense is mid-core, and they still have Dan Quinn, who hasn't really done anything since 2017.
All right. On to the next team. The Tampa Bay Bucks. Last year's record, 7-9, 3rd in the NFC South.
This year I've been going 11-5.
I've been going 12-4.
I've been going 12-3-1.
I got the Buccaneers going 10-6.
I also have Tom Brady and the Bucks at 10-6.
Some notable additions are obviously quarterback Tom Brady from the Pats, Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle from the draft, and Rob Gronkowski, tight end.
Notable losses, only one, Carl Nassib at defensive end.
Okay, so the strength of schedule for the Buccaneers is 50.2%, tied for 16th in the league.
Well, on paper, the Buccaneers have an offensive juggernaut with Tom Brady, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Rob Gronkowski. That being said, though, I don't know if it will translate directly to the field. I do see them taking a step up because they do have a franchise quarterback in Tom Brady. But the fact that they have all these weapons, I just don't know how the chemistry is going to be there.
They still have a hole in running back.
Yeah, I still think they need some balance on offense between the pass and the rush, or otherwise they may not be or otherwise teams can easily defend against the pass because they won't have to worry about the rush.
I just think that they're an offensive juggernaut, like Samir said, mixed with youth and veterans. And even if their defense, they have Shaq Barrett, but I don't think he's enough. And if their defense can carry them through the games, I think their offense can.
Okay, well, I want to bring up a discussion question, if you don't mind. Tom Brady is 42. how much of an impact and how long can he keep it up with the Buccaneers?
Oh, he's proved that he's aging beautifully. So I think he's sustaining. He's going to sustain the next 2 years.
Yeah, but how
He's
is the
gonna
defense really going to play? I don't think they could be that great of a defense, honestly.
I still think that Tom Brady's
Very
so I won't say a top 20 quarterback, but I still think that he's a quarterback who can lead this team to possibly the NFC Championship or a divisional round.
The Buccaneers definitely have some defensive studs. I mean, we're looking at Devin White, who was I gonna say? Devin White, and then also in the linebacking core they have Levante David, defensive tackle, and Dominic Sue. I mean, they have some guys that can play really, but apart from those three, I don't think they really have much of a defense, and that's why I see them being a playoff team, but I don't see them going anywhere. Especially considering Abhi, that Tom Brady's old, he has a higher risk of injury.
That doesn't matter. He's proved that doesn't matter.
Well, dude, he has a connection with Rob Gronkowski, but other than that, who else is there?
I think they could lose a couple of games at first, but I think they're going to get right on track with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, two of the best wide receivers in the league.
I think the Buccaneers can be a good team, obviously, one that makes the playoffs, but I think their defense does hold them back a little. I still think Tom Brady's going to do good with the Buccaneers. He has all these weapons. But maybe the offense might lag a little because of the imbalance between pass and rush, because they don't really have a proven running back.
Yeah. Moving on. Our last team, Carolina Panthers. Last year's record 5-11, last in the NFC South.
This year I've been going 6-10.
I've been going 7-9.
I've been going 6-10 as well.
I've been going 8-8.
This year I have the Panthers at 6-10.
Some notable additions for the Panthers are going to be starting quarterback Teddy Bridgewater and Derek Brown, defensive tackle.
Notable losses are James Bradbury, a cornerback, and Mario Addison, a defensive lineman.
So the strength of schedule for the Panthers is 50% exactly, tied for 18th in the league.
Well, I think CMC and Teddy will stay mediocre, and but just based on how tough their division is, I think they could win maybe 2 more games this year. That's about it.
Well, I mean, Christian McCaffrey is definitely a proven superstar. I mean, last year he was number 1 amongst running backs last year. But with the addition of Teddy Bridgewater, even though he proved himself a little bit on the Saints last year and in the absence of Drew Brees, I think he's still going 6. I think the Panthers are still going to be 6-10. They didn't really upgrade anyone, and they lost head coach Ron Rivera. So as Rohan mentioned, there will be a little bit of a discrepancy there with teams that have switched head coaches. And that's why I see the Panthers having another losing season.
Yeah, I think that we can all agree that wherever the Panthers go record-wise, I think that Christian McCaffrey is carrying them.
Yeah, I also think Christian McCaffrey is carrying them. I think he's amazing in fantasy football and in real life. They also have Teddy Bridgewater, a better quarterback than what Kyle Allen was last season. So I think DJ Moore, he also improves this season. So that's why I have them at 500.
Other than DJ Moore, but who else do they really have?
They did get Robbie Anderson from the Jets.
Yeah, he's been decent.
And he's been one of the targets for Sam Darnold, as we talked about last video. But I don't think he can add that much.
But defensively, do you think they took a step back, even though they drafted Derek Brown?
They have Brian Burns, so, I mean, he adds pass rush. They have Uter Gross Matos, so they have those two.
They did lose Thomas Davis, but he's very old now.
And they lost Luke Kuechly to retirement
last season.
And they lost Luke Kuechly to retirement, so that's a huge gap at linebackers.
Yeah, Luke Kuechly though, but he really hasn't done that much for them since his prime years.
Well, he's always been like a really good player.
Yeah, he's been really good.
Luke Kuechly is still proven to be one of the elite linebackers in the NFL before.
He hasn't completely fallen off, but he's retired now. So.
Yep, that's why they're on. I mean, we all have higher predictions than the Panthers actually did go last year. But
I think that's just for Teddy Bridgewater starting quarterback.
Yeah, I think the Panthers could be down. I think the Panthers could have a less than 500 record for maybe a couple years now. I don't know, maybe 2-3 years. I don't see them getting better rather than.
Yeah. Now I have a discussion question for everybody. Do you guys think that the NFC is going to be as good as the AFC or worse than the AFC or better?
I see the NFC as good as the AFC, if not better, because of the two divisions. I don't really know what they are, but
I see the NFC better.
I see the NFC worse as Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are on the other side of that conference.
But then
I
you look.
would say the
Brady is
NFC better, but I have the Ravens going 14-2, which is the best in the league, and I also have the Chiefs going very high. So
Yeah.
I think there is definitely more Super Bowl contenders on the AFC side. I think Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, even like on the NFC side. I mean, we only really have is Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and that's who Drew Brees hasn't really proven himself. So I think there's definitely more serious threats on the AFC side, and I think that's why they're better. Overall their conference is better than the NFC.
you're getting Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, though.
Yeah, but they haven't won a Super Bowl in a long time.
True, but yeah.
I mean, if
But
the NFC is deeper, then they have an easier chance to get to the Super Bowl, and all they have to do is win it. So.
Last year they went head-to-head, and Green Bay came up on top. But unfortunately for them, they just got blown out in the NFC Championship game. So really, I don't.
I think though if Seattle won that game, I think they could have put up a much more of a fight against the Niners.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, that wraps up episode 3, guys. The Instagram is coming out soon, I promise. And episode 4 will be our first take on the NBA. So, guys, subscribe down below, drop a like, and peace out.